Good afternoon everyone, this is Coffee with Susie and this is my third video. So just want to say a very quick hello, and I hope you're all keeping safe and well in these really uncertain times, especially due to this new lockdown that's coming on Thursday. I hope you're all okay and being as strong as you really can. So today's video is going to be about continuation on from my last video on failure to conceive. So I believe last time I spoke very briefly about some fluid that was actually found in my tubes when there was the investigation into whether my tubes were blocked or not. Now this fluid was determined to be there because of the blockage of the tubes that were very severely scarred due to my adhesions. So I'd gone through the process of blood tests for hormone levels. My partner had had his sperm test, all okay, which is fantastic, and also I'd had 6 months worth of Clomid, which all you ladies that are suffering with infertility will know promotes stimulates the eggs to release and to hopefully meet with the sperm and you conceive. Obviously, because my tubes were blocked, the ovulation part was working with the Clomid, but the conception wasn't happening because the sperm weren't getting through. So I was booked in to have a laparoscopy. Not sure whether most of you ladies will know what that is, whereby they insert a camera through the belly button into the abdomen to have a good look around to see what's going on and whether or not the tubes are blocked to the point where they can't save them. So I was booked in to have this operation and I was quite positive actually. I felt that yes, this is potentially going to solve all my problems. They're going to unblock my tubes and then I'm going to manage to have a baby. I think I wasn't being that realistic, but any chance is better than no chance at all. And as usual, my partner was very supportive in the best way that he could be. And on reflection, I needed to think about that more. I will come back to the effects that infertility has on relationships, and speaking from experience, it can be detrimental. I would recommend when you are going through infertility and failure to conceive that you talk, communicate with your partner all the time, and remember that just because he's not the one that's infertile, it doesn't mean that he's not suffering, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't need your support sometimes. I think because we're the ones that aren't able to have the babies or carry the babies, which, let's face it, in life, that's what a female is here to do, is it not? But it's not that. We're here to live, create life if we can, and if we can't, then it doesn't mean that we are nothing. It just means that there's another path for us. But back onto your partner, I just want to reiterate that it's so important that you communicate with one another and you talk about how you're both really feeling. I will do a video about relationships and infertility as we go through the journey, and I really hope that it will help some of you ladies out there who are struggling to communicate with your partners or who have been through a relationship breakdown because of infertility. Back onto the laparoscopy that they performed on me. Now, the laparoscopy, unfortunately for me, was very unsuccessful. So they couldn't penetrate my pelvis with the needle and the camera to go through the abdomen due to my pelvis being what they call fused. The scar adhesions, unfortunately, due to the 28 operations that I had throughout my life, had fused my pelvis completely and nothing was getting through there apart from a scalpel. So that was a failure, as I felt was so much to do with this conception business. Everything was a failure. But as I remember how I felt and the pain I was going through, now on reflection, it's all got me to where I am today. That won't mean anything to people who are going through it and they haven't got there yet, but it will do. This laparoscopy, unfortunately, was that much of a failure that I ended up being readmitted to hospital the day after. I was urinating blood. I was going to the toilet and it was just blood. I was being sick blood. And the reason for this is because when they do a laparoscopy to check the fertility organs, they blow the area up with air so that everything separates slightly and they can see better with the camera. Unfortunately, because of my scar adhesions, it tore some of my organs when they blew me up. The scar adhesions were like webs and they were attached to my bladder, my kidneys, my liver, and subsequently I spent quite a long time in hospital recovering from that, and was told that the only way really of them checking to see whether my tubes could be recovered was to open me up. I decided at that time that that wasn't something that I wanted. I was in a lot of pain from that operation. I couldn't stand up straight for weeks, and I really felt like I didn't want another operation. So the doctor referred me to Care Fertility in Nottingham, and I was awarded one free NHS cycle on the IVF for IVF because I qualified for that at that time. I don't want to really go into criteria for that because it is different in each county in England, and how many goes you get as well. You know, in some counties you get 3 goes, some 1. Unfortunately, I was just 1. This particular IVF, like I said, was funded by the NHS, and it was another journey, or another part of the journey that I was going on. Again, I felt quite positive. I did a lot of investigations into IVF, and the success rates were really good, and they are really good, and they get better and better and better. So I really did feel that this was going to work for me. So I remember going to the doctor and him giving me the letter to say, yes, you have been approved to have IVF on the NHS. I was very, very happy about that. And then he said the words that I suppose I dreaded hearing, even though I knew they were true. You are infertile. And when someone else says it to you, even though you know you are, it's a massive thing. It's like someone's hit you with a brick. And it's quite painful to hear that, but it doesn't mean that you won't conceive. Infertility just means that you've been trying to have a baby and it hasn't happened for a certain amount of time. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen and you're not going to be able to hold your own baby inside of you and give birth to your own child. So I went to the clinic for my appointment, and it's a beautiful clinic in Strelly, near Nottingham. And the ladies that looked after me, the nurses, oh, they were just lovely. I couldn't rate Nottingham for Care Fertility enough. They are amazing. They taught me through the procedure. there was a slight waiting list for a consultation, but that was fine because it was almost like this is going to happen. So I almost didn't mind waiting, if that makes sense. I'd already waited almost 3 years by this point. So to talk a little bit about IVF, there's going to be a lot of ladies here that are listening to this that aren't at that stage yet, and you might not even get to that stage. And I think that's really important for you to know, is that just because certain people have to go down that route, it doesn't mean that you will. And I know a lot of ladies who haven't been able to conceive for years and years and years, and it does happen naturally for them at some point. So it doesn't mean that you're going to have IVF. However, if you do, it's not the end of the world, and the success rates are amazing. So the important thing I would say is to try to stay positive, and try to see it as a positive step forward. Now, IVF is a very invasive procedure, but to be honest with you, by this point my dignity had gone out the window when I had my first checks with the doctor at Grantham Hospital, as I'm sure a lot of you ladies can sort of understand, you know. So I was booked in for my appointment, and I was due to meet the consultant. I went and met the consultant. He was very, very positive, and it really did look like things were looking up for me, for us. He talked through the process of IVF, whereby they stimulated the ovaries with a concoction of drugs, and they would then do several scans to make sure your hormone levels are at the right range, and internal scans to make sure that the follicles with the eggs in were growing nicely. And this was a process that was around 6 weeks, I think, remember rightly. A lot of scans, a lot of early mornings to the clinic. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't difficult, because it is. It's very draining. The hormones that you're popping into your system by way of injections every day are very, very hard on the body. But to be honest with you, I would say that IVF, although it's invasive, although it is tiring, it's a means to an end, and a beautiful end it can be. And I know 4 people who have gone on to have the most beautiful babies, who are now in their teens, through IVF. So it can work, it does work, and it's got a proven and tested. So I'd had all my internal scans. I was at the point where you inject with something that comes out of a fridge. Well, it did do at the time. And this is exactly 36 hours before they actually book you in for what's called an egg collection. So I was 36 hours away from egg collection. I was feeling really, really positive, although I didn't actually have that many follicles, which is the eggs within the follicles. I only had 5, which isn't actually a lot, but it's quality over quantity always, and it only takes 1. So I went in for egg collection. Egg collection was actually very, very smooth, and I would say it's nothing to worry about. They do actually give you something that really calms you down, and actually it knocked me out. It knocked me out cold. I don't know what happened. It's not like anaesthetic, it's not as strong as that, but it is strong enough to make you fall asleep, which is great, because it is quite invasive. You do have a lot of people in the room when you are about to have your egg collection. but they make you feel so at home and so comfortable, and really do try to put you at ease as much as possible. And I can't stress how much they do that. So if you are going to go through IVF, please don't be concerned about any of that, because they are well trained. They know exactly the pain you're going through and the heartache. They want this to work for you, and they will try to make you feel as comfortable as possible. So I at this point was having egg collection, woke up from egg collection, and I had those 5 follicles, and they grade these follicles, so, or the eggs within the follicles, and they grade them, and I had some really good graded eggs, so I think they were grade 1s, which is the best. I was over the moon. So the eggs were then given to the embryologists, and they do their business with the sperm and the eggs, which nature is amazing. It does its own thing if it can. And within a couple of days I was called to tell me how many had fertilised. I had 4 that fertilised, which was fantastic. They were all progressing well. My little embryos were dividing. Cell division is really important when it comes to an embryo. The more cells, the better. And they were all dividing really well. So I was over the moon at this point. So by the time I actually got to egg transfer, it's called, only 2 unfortunately had survived from the 5. This is because the others didn't quite divide the amount of times that they really needed to by that point. But I was still very positive, and I did feel that this particular IVF treatment for myself went really well. So I was at egg transfer. Egg transfer went really well. Your partner is allowed to be in the room with you, and you see your embryos on a screen, so you can actually witness what could be your child on a screen, and it's very surreal. And I remember the doctor, once the eggs had been placed inside my uterus, shaking my partner's hand, and he said, "Congratulations, you're now pregnant." Those are words you don't really hear that often when you're going through infertility, and it was very strange, but also really lovely. And although I knew that there was a real road ahead of us, I was excited, because this was my real proper first chance of being pregnant and having a baby. So we then got into what's called the 2-week wait, which anybody who's gone through IVF will know is the worst time ever. The 2-week wait is the dreaded 2-week wait. And within this 2 weeks, you analyse every twinge, every ache, every pain, and you overthink everything. It's the worst time. And my next video is going to be about what happened on that particular IVF and my journey on from there. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I am trying my best to get to grips with these videos, so please bear with me, but I will get better, and I hope you found this informative. Please ask me any questions if you want to, and I will speak to you soon. I'll be doing another video beginning of next week. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you're all well, and please stay safe. Take care.